Let us pray. Lord God, we thank you. Lord God, we say we're sorry. Lord God, we say, please. Amen. Please be seated. Stay awake during my sermon. No, stay awake, Jesus said to his followers. Be ready. In another part of the gospel, Jesus says, Mark 13, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. Luke chapter 12, you must also be ready. Matthew 24, therefore you must be ready, be prepared. Mark chapter 12, you must be alert. I've already told you everything. Luke chapter 12, blessed are those slaves whom the master finds ready. Luke again 21, be alert, prepared at all times, praying that you may have the strength to escape all these things that will take place. I could go on. Over and over. Stay awake. Be prepared. Be ready. Why does Jesus harp on this theme so much? What do we hear implied in this? What do we hear implied? Stay awake or what? Really, I'm asking you a question. Stay awake or what? Be prepared or you'll perish. You'll be left behind. I'm sorry, Episcopalians are not accustomed to being asked questions. So normally the questions are rhetorical. That was a real one. But no, yeah, so something like where you'll be left behind, obviously. Something not good for sure. Today is the first Sunday of Advent, as we have said. And on this Sunday, every year we hear these words, be ready, be alert, be prepared. Prepare yourselves. Advent is a season of preparing yourselves. Literally, though, the word means an arrival of an awaited figure. That's what the word means. And of course, that awaited figure is the Messiah, and the 4 weeks of Advent are the weeks leading up to Christmas, when the awaited figure of God comes. Although we hear Jesus' command every year to stay awake, be ready during Advent, it's obvious that this teaching, so prevalent in the Bible, is about so much more than the 4 weeks of Advent, isn't it? And I want to say today that it's about so much more than whether or not we will go to heaven or hell when we die. His calling to prepare ourselves about so much more than how we die. Some of you are baseball fans. I know because I saw you in your Cubbies gear. I see a few of you out there this year. I'm not that much of a baseball fan, but I was invited last year to go see the Astros play in Houston. Houston's Major League Baseball team. And it was during their big winning streak. And so it was really exciting time to be there, as you can imagine. The crowd is on the edge of their seats. Will this be the year that our Astros go all the way? And I was there, and my seat was fantastic. I was sitting literally right behind the dugout of the Astros. My drink and my popcorn are on top of the dugout. And so from my seat, I could see not only what was going on, but I could see what was going on in the emotions of the young men playing the sport. And it was great. As I watched them, it struck me, as I watched them approach the plate, just how focused they all were. And I noticed all these strange things each one of them did. Like one of them would knock the mud off of his boots with his bat over and over. There was no mud, right? Another one would spit 3 times and wipe his butt. You've seen the routines. It seemed to be superstition, but the more I watched and I saw them, I noticed this was not superstition. No, each one of the batters simply had a routine which they went to prepare themselves. They were getting ready. Each of them did all these particular things which allowed them to clear their minds of everything and to focus on that which they needed to focus on. So they could be ready, because when they stepped into that batter's box, it's like lightning. It was over. I went away from that game last year reflecting on how much my experience since I've become a Christian and now I seek to follow God in my life, in my daily life, how similar it is to hitting that baseball. And I heard anew Jesus' call to us to be prepared, to prepare ourselves. Because when we step out into our day, every day, it's a fastball. And when we do not engage in the work of preparing ourselves, we watch so many beautiful pitches fly past. And we fail to respond, or perhaps we respond in an unhealthy way. We have such regret of our decisions and our behaviors. Really, isn't all of our life just be awake, stay awake, be prepared, Jesus says. He calls us to prepare ourselves, and this call is more than about how we die. This is about how God calls us to live, isn't it? Changing time frames. During the American Civil War, so now we're in 1861, 1865, the loss of human life in the American Civil War, many of you know, is just horrific. Horrific. And most historians agree now that the great generals of the North, which are attributed to having brought victory for the North, most of them showed little consideration for the loss of life in their planning of battles. And as a result, countless lives were lost in different situations, needlessly. But there was one general who now stands out. And although he's not very well known, he was perhaps the greatest general of the North during the Civil War. His name was General George Thomas. Strikingly about Thomas is this, that although he was known for valuing and striving to save lives, he was, on one hand, he was also known for his men winning victories by refusing to retreat in battles. In crucial battles, it was George Thomas and his men who held their positions when all else were fleeing, and allowed those who fled to then reform and come up and re-engage and win victory. When George Thomas was asked how this could be, how his men were able to do this, were they just more courageous? Were they just more talented soldiers? He answered no. Actually, all people are cowards in the face of death. We cannot stop the fear, the emotions of our fear. But what we can do is be prepared for it. Be ready. We can learn how we respond to the difficult situations of life and be ready to deal with ourselves in those moments when we would normally come up short and respond cowardly. General Thomas's success on the battlefield was actually just evidence of his success on the training field. He drove his men hard on the training field, never stopping the demand to be prepared, to know yourself and prepare for whatever lies ahead. And he did not drive his men to do so because he hated them, although I bet it felt that way sometimes to him. But he did it because he loved them. And he wanted them to live. Stay awake. Be prepared. Be ready so that you can live freely and truly today and eternally. I think most of us here, I've gotten to know most of you over the last 3 months. I think I can safely say most of us know that we're a work in progress, aren't we? That we're very imperfect people, and that there are ways in which we tend to keep coming up short over and over. There are areas of life that we continue to struggle with, ways that we respond to situations or we fail to respond to them, and it robs us of our peace, prevents us from receiving the very blessings of God which our day-to-day lives hold for us. And perhaps they not only hurt us, but they hurt others. We know this, and we know that something like that, the good news of Jesus is that God loves us despite that we're a work in progress. But we're reminded today that God is a God who not only loves us enough to love us the way we are, God is a God who loves us enough not to leave us the way He finds us. He's a God who loves us and helps us to change. He calls us to be prepared, to stay awake, to be ready, because He knows He wants for us not only victory in our death, but He wants victory for us in our life, to receive His blessings in this life. He says, stay awake, be ready, so that you may live more freely tomorrow than today. What your battles are, I do not know. I know you a little. I do not know. Where you need to strive to improve yourself, I cannot see most of the time. But I know no matter how many times you've struck out, Jesus always has a place on his team for you. And he always calls you back into the batter's box. When we step into our workplace, when we step into our family life, even when we sit at the table to discuss money with our spouses, when we are drawn into political discussions, when we are behind the wheel of the car and there's traffic, life just comes so fast. Jesus calls, put aside the works of darkness and put on the armor of the light. Step back in that batter's box ready so that we may live more free tomorrow than today. So prepare yourselves. To be practical for just a minute, how in the world do we do this? We know this is a difficult work. But it's like those baseball players, though. We need our own routines, do we not? My routine may not fit your life, and yours may not fit mine. But we need a way of shaking off those fruitless things and to refocus ourselves. Certainly, that's part of the reasons why he calls you to be us all, to be here on this day every week, to order our lives. But there are many other things. Let me mention a few, none new to you, but all richly important to me. Which is, the first would be studying, meaning reading the Bible, a small part of it every day and reflecting upon it. You've heard it. This is deeply important. Prayer, learning how to say sorry, or thank you, sorry, please to God. Learning how to say that is important, opening our hearts to God so he can lead us. Third is service. We do not earn our way to heaven by good deeds. We cultivate in us, through our service, the ability to prioritize others, which helps us in every situation of life. Get a counselor. Join a support group. Get on antidepressants. God knows antidepressants are God's gift to so many people. Surround yourself with good people. Come see your priest. Do whatever it takes to find a way to equip yourself. For the point is that God asks us not to be ill-prepared when we step back into our days tomorrow. God loves you just the way you are today. Period. And he loves you enough to refuse to leave you the way he finds you. He wants you to be free. God calls us to observe this season of Advent. Not only these 4 weeks, but he calls us to live an Advent life, doesn't he? Always remembering that no matter how many times we strike out, he calls us to play ball. Amen.